Hold on one second. Hold on one second. All right. Excuse me. Second time going on the YouTube live. It is Pianky, aka Grasshopper, governor named William Marshall Dow II, named after my illustrious grandfather, William Marshall Dow I. May he rest in eternal spirit. Today is January the 4th, 2019, according to the Western calendar, but that is in correspondence with the Kemetic calendar, which is 6,259, also known as 6259 Sma Tawi. For those that may not be familiar with 6259 Sma Tawi, it is when the first Nasut, commonly referred to as Pharaoh of ancient Kemet, commonly referred to today as Egypt, the first Nasut was Aha Namr, who united Upper and Lower Kemet, brought them two together, united those two august geographical areas, united them, inculcated them, connected them together, and that's the first time in human history that dates, times, and years first started to record when Aha Namr, the first Nasut or Pharaoh of ancient Kemet, known today as Egypt, united Upper and Kemet. That's when they started to take time on when days, month, years, whatever, started to matriculate. So it is 6259 Kemetic time. You got to dig what I'm saying. All right, family, friends, distinguished guests. First of all, I want to give a shout out to my mama. Yesterday was her solar return, referred to as birthday yesterday. So I definitely want to give her a shout out. I wasn't able to give her a shout out yesterday because I was very occupied with my children, wife, job, establishment I'm at, with the group home and stuff of that magnitude. I didn't have time to really get on the live, Facebook, YouTube, whatever the case may be. So I'm going to do it today by giving praise, admiration, and honor to my mama, Jean Elizabeth Dow. I love her to life on her solar return birthright day. All right, today I want to talk about something that's very, I think it's very important, that I feel is a necessity that a lot of people are talking about, that a lot of people are really speaking on to some degree, and that is dealing with the conscious community. And when I'm talking about conscious community, I'm not talking about in a literal sense, because we're all conscious. If you're breathing, if you're coherent, you're conscious. That's in the literal sense. But I'm talking about consciousness as it relates to being centered in your Africanness, as being awakened or woke, as the term is today, as being very informative about certain things politically, culturally, spiritually, and as I relate to being centered in your Africanness. You know, the conscious community can consist of people that is a Black nationalist, those that are very prolific when it comes to Black empowerment, those that talk about Black economics. I'm a part of an organization called Black Economics 101. Conscious community can deal with people that are Pan-Africanists, absolutely, African historians, revolutionaries from an African perspective, RBG, that's a part of the conscious community, the Moorish Empire, a part of the conscious community to some degree as well, Nation of Islam, those who have a certain type of high octane of race esteem, nationality esteem, ethnocentristic esteem, really having an awakening and having a clear, comprehensive understanding of what it is for us as it relates to the honorable African ascended race, or whatever you refer to yourself as, really reaching our highest and greatest efficiency. So those are some tangibles and elements that is connected to the conscious community. Now, the conscious community right now, you know, it's getting somewhat of a bad rap as we speak. The conscious community is getting somewhat of a bad rap today. You know, I'm pretty sure if you guys are even remotely connected to the conscious community, you know, you've heard all the scams that certain people who are leaders of the conscious communities is a part of. You heard people being shisty, shady, and having negative motives to really fleece the masses of the people. And so even the people who are a part of what I deem to be the African-centered conscious community, they will state that they are not a part of the conscious community. You know, many people that are attached to those many different elements, many different organizations, or many different ideological organizations that I mentioned, that aforementioned. And they will say, I'm not a part of the conscious community. So you got a black nationalist or a Pan-Africanist or whatever. They will say, I'm not a part of the conscious community because there's certain individuals who is to some degree fleecing the flock, given not necessarily negative information or historical analysis, but it's not living up to what they are preaching, what he or she is preaching as it relates to the conscious community, because the conscious community is starting to expand. It's starting to become a popular phenomenon in these days. So people will say, yes, I may know about Marcus Mosiah Garvey. I may know about Minister Malcolm X. I may study W.E.B. Du Bois and Sekou Touré, Asajj Kwame Nkrumah. The list goes on and on. I may study those individuals. I may, but I'm not a part of the conscious community. They're trying to isolate themselves. And it's a whole lot of people that are saying they're not a part of the conscious community, but they are to some degree conscious as it relates to being centered in their Africanness. Well, for me, I'm going to say like this. I am a part of the conscious community. I am a part of the African-centered community. Because many of those, before I go into the reasons why I'm a part of the conscious community, I'm going to say this, that many of those people who has a high level of consciousness as it relates to being centered in their Africanness mentally and to some degree intellectually, the reason they say they're not conscious, or let's go like this, those who are kind of new to the conscious community, who is having an appetite to want to learn about our story, but they will see certain schemes that's going on by so-called leaders in the conscious community. They will say, oh, I'm not a part of the conscious community, or just people in general who claim to be conscious, but are not living out the consciousness with what we call impeccable integrity. So a lot of those individuals, and I'm not faulting them at this, it's not their fault. A lot of them are really may not understand. Let's break it down like that. A lot of those individuals may not understand, let's not get too deep today, may not understand the distinguishes between personalities and principles. They may not understand the differences between following charismatic people who got a good mouthpiece as opposed to following principles as it relates to the overall totality of the conscious community. And here's what I'm saying. The reason I say I'm a part of the conscious community because I study a lot of the all-time greats as it relates to being conscious. Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad, by the way, in 8 days, next Saturday, we're celebrating his 71st solar return day out here in the greater Los Angeles area. I'm urging each and every one of you to be a partake in this wonderful establishment as we honor Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad. May he rest in eternal spirit forever. So me studying Khalid Abdul Muhammad, me studying Minister Malcolm X, me studying Baba John Henrik Clark, may he rest in eternal spirit. May Malcolm X rest in eternal spirit. There's so many others. Y'all know the names. If you even remotely a part of African-centered conscious community, me studying them, I have a complete comprehension that when you really ascribe to consciousness or ascribe to the conscious community, it's not following personalities or people. It is adhering or ascribing to the principles that the conscious community bear. And one of the key ingredients to really understanding consciousness is to study Stephen Biko, may he rest in spirit. Matter of fact, he's a part of Black Conscious Coalition out in Tanzania or South Africa before they killed him. Very astute when it comes to organizing. Very astute. And his thing was when you are conscious, not being aware or literally awakened, but when you're conscious from an African-centered perspective, you use your consciousness to once again propel and develop and master yourself as it relates to being coincided with being conscious or being African-centered. Another very important person to study, Stephen Biko is a person to study, but also one of my heroes, is my hero, is by studying, this is very important, especially for those who are new to the conscious community, is studying this guy right here, Stokely Carmichael, aka Kwame Touré. He's no longer with us in the physical form. He has given the best analysis, the best example of what it is to be conscious. And I'm telling you, youngsters or people who are new to the conscious community, if you study, in particular, this lecture, which is called the conscious, what's called using your, it's called, so many of them. not try. It's the conscious community using your consciousness to convert the unconscious to being conscious. I am extending out the title. It's something to do with being conscious and using your consciousness to prick the minds of those who may not be conscious. So anyway, studying Stokely Carmichael, aka Kwame Ture, he breaks down what it is to be conscious. And one of the key ingredients to being conscious, as far as being centered in your Africanness, is to not use your consciousness, your information that one may know, as a badge of honor, meaning to suppress those who may not be conscious, may not know who Marcus Garvey is, may not know who Kwame Ture is or who Khalid Muhammad is. Our job is not to look down on them because they may not be aware or ignorant to certain motives of certain historical heroes and sheroes of the time, is to be like, oh, they're not on my level, or to suppress them. No, that is a white supremacist mindset right here. That is when my job, when I got into the conscious community, being African-centered, is to not look down on African or Black people. My job is to help uplift them. It's to not walk over them. It's not walk away from them. But my job is to walk with them. And if you study Kwame Ture, aka Stokely Carmichael, as it relates to being conscious, you will have a clear comprehension on what it is to be consciousness, because a lot of these new cats are coming into the conscious community who don't want to be a part of the conscious community because they're looking at felonious characters that is perpetrating and being flagrant with being conscious. They feel that all the people or significant amount of people are like that. They are following personalities, not following principles. And let's be real. A lot of our people coming from the church and even from Islam, being with the Negro minister, I ain't gonna diss nobody today, being a part of some ministers in the Islamic faith or in the Christian faith. And you got some ministers, pretty much low borderline dictators, telling you what to do, telling you to do this, but they're not living up to what they're doing. But through the subconsciously, many of us have been observant of those type of individuals to be the leader or to lead us, that we're bringing that mindset subconsciously into the conscious community and want a savior and want a leader. And when some of these so-called leaders are scam, crooked, cutthroat, shiesty, then we feel like, oh man, I'm not going to deal with the conscious community. No, you got to study Kwame Ture. I'm telling you, study Kwame Ture. He gives a complete analysis on not to follow no leaders as it relates to the conscious community, to be your own leader. Dr. Ben and Dr. Clark talked about that as well. You got to be a leader of your reality. You got to be a leader of your destiny. Hell, you come to this world by yourself and you're going to ascend to the next level of this world by yourself. So while you're in between those two dichotomies, it is time for you to lead yourself as best way you can. Now, obviously, you can have master jegnas. You can have master teachers to give you the guidance, the wisdom, the certain proverbs to help enlighten you, to keep you on that path. But you should never, ever, 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 ever follow anyone, especially if that person is felonious. However, when you really ascribe to what it is to be conscious from an African-centered perspective, you will know that you're not following anybody personalities, you're following the principles. Now, when I say that, I'm not saying because you got some slicksters out here in this conscious community. They'll go on and say, well, it's not about the messenger, it's about the message. It's about what he or she is elaborating on. That's a bunch of bull junk. That is a bunch of bull junk. It's not, no. It is about the messenger. It is about what he or she is speaking and living up to what he or she is speaking. Because anybody have a mouthpiece. I got a good mouthpiece. Anybody can have a mouthpiece to say certain good colloquial phrases and play with your emotions and get you revved up and rah and get you real excited. Oh, a lot of ministers do that. You know what I mean? And I ain't knocking that. It is a good skill to have, to be able to share words of encouragement and inspiration to give those who are listening to your lectures, speeches, whatever the case may be, to give them a source of inspiration. I ain't knocking that. But when you who are speaking it is not living up to what you are speaking, I'm not talking about making mistakes. I'm talking about intentionally not living up to what you are speaking, then you are not conscious. You are not fit to be a leader, and you are not really fit to be in a position to even mobilize the masses of the people. But so many of our people are once put somebody on a pedestal. It says in the 34th Declaration of Ma'at, do not place no one on a pedestal. 34th or 35th. No, 35th is I will not speak arrogantly, angrily. That's next. But in one of the virtues or the declaration, I should say, of my I will not place myself or anyone on a pedestal. You don't put nobody on a pedestal. Because you put people on the pedestal, why are you doing that? Why are you putting someone on the pedestal? As Dr. Ben said, you don't want to take the bullet like Dr. King did. No, not Ms. Ben, this is analogies. You don't want to take the bullet like Malcolm X did. You want to put people on a pedestal because if things don't go right, you can blame it on them and not blame it inward, you know. But however, on the flip side, that when you put people on a pedestal, praising them, there's nothing wrong with giving them their props, nothing wrong with giving them encouragement. But when you're praising them overtly, audaciously, some people start to get big-headed and feel they can't be criticized. Feel when they do something wrong, you got to overlook that because what they are taught. That's a bunch of bull junk. Study Kwame Ture, Stoli Carmichael, may he rest in spirit, because I never met Kwame Ture, but I met a whole lot of people who was very close to this brother, and they said this brother was not arrogant. Not whatsoever. He did everything he spoke on. He did everything he spoke on, and he put his body on the line. He wasn't just a magnificent orator. Strike that. He wasn't just a magnificent orator, as Dr. Kaban Camille would say. But he was also a magnificent individual who lived out or had his rhetoric coincide to what he was living. And there's a lot of us talk too much. I hate to say it, you know. And there's nothing wrong with talking or giving lectures or giving workshops, like Dr. Amos Wilson teaches us, but it's having the follow through behind that. You gotta have some more than just rhetoric. You gotta go beyond the verbal teachings. You understand what I'm saying, which Kwame Ture did. So he teaches us how to do that. In this book and throughout a whole bunch, you can read Ready for the Revolution, a biography of Kwame Ture. You can read Stokely about before he became Kwame Ture, when he was going through the Freedom Riders movement and became a member of the Student National Coordinating Committee or Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. You know, Kwame Ture is the man when it comes to being conscious. Youngsters, listen to Kwame Ture, and you will have a different overview of what it is to be conscious. You will not follow personalities. You will adhere and ascribe to principles of values, moral traits that one live by without compromising them. So one thing Kwame Ture teaches as being conscious is you never compromise your principles, your morals, your values. You never compromise, not even the slightest bit. You might compromise your tactics. I mean, you might compromise certain strategy moves, you know, but you never compromise who you are as it relates to being conscious, as it relates to being a man or woman or man of principles. Another thing Kwame Ture teaches as it relates to being conscious from an African-centered perspective is we got to be humble. Not to say we don't have confidence, because we do need to have confidence. Confidence is a strong, important attribute to have in one's repertoire. So yes, we need to be extremely confident, but another main reason a lot of don't want to be a part of the African-centered conscious community is we got too many arrogant Negroes out here today. These Negroes are too arrogant, and most of these dudes is arrogant. It's corny as they corny. Corny as David Allen Greer was on Boomerang. No offense to him. He's a great comedian, you know. They corny, you know. But they so arrogant. So many arrogant Negroes in the conscious community today. It's mind-boggling to me. And that's what Kwame Ture teaches. You do not be arrogant. You do not look down on people. You do not look down on your people or try to manipulate them or make them feel guilty that they got to give you money, give you praise, give you prestige to strike one's fragile ego. Kwame Ture teaches us how to be arrogant but still be confident in the African-centered conscious community. I'm a part of the conscious community. There's nothing wrong with saying you're a part of the conscious community. I will always say it till I go to the grave. Or when I go to and ascend to the next level of life. Being conscious is not something that's bad. Being conscious is something that is apropos, that is righteous, as long as you live in your consciousness the right way. So anyway, family, friends, distinguished guests, this is going to be all for me. This is Brother Pianky, or King Pianky, named after the 25th dynastic Nasubit of Nubia, Kush. I'm going to talk about him later on, but I just want to get that out of my system as far as the conscious community, because I'm a part of the conscious community. I love the conscious community because I'm not following personalities. I'm not following principles. And main thing is, when you are going to be, or when you are striving to be conscious, you will do it even when you do have to do it by yourself. You know, that's what being conscious is. It's being a person who love his or herself, You're the person who loves his or her culture, her race, and a person who is going to identify with one's mission and live that mission out to the benefit of one's totality. As the late great Baba John Henry Clark, may rest in eternal spirit, was fond of saying that whatever you do as an African-centered people or as African people, whatever you do it for yourself, do it for your family, and if you really have ascribed to being conscious from an African-centered perspective, you also make and do your gifts for your people. This is King Pianky, William Marshall Dow II, aka Grasshopper. Then you know that being conscious is a badge of honor. It is not something to be ashamed of, it's something to be extremely proud of. I'll catch you in the next one. Hotep, Ashe, and big black love to all.